Welcome back, Lincoln Currency. Imagine you're gently lifting a coin older than many people in the world. A humble little Lincoln cent minted in 1992. It slips from your fingers, a slender, copper-toned disc measuring roughly 19 millimeters across, about 2.5 grams in weight, its surface smooth yet marked by innumerable microscopic dents from its journey through pockets, registers, and coin jars. It's light enough to feel almost weightless, but hold it close. You'll realize it represents centuries of minting evolution, debate, artistry, and even controversy. Its composition is telling of its era, a modern penny, in fact. Since 1982, the U.S. Mint transitioned to a copper-plated zinc core to reduce production costs, but the penny still retains a warm copper hue, despite being 97.5% zinc with a thin copper veneer. Wikipedia. Transport that coin into your mind's eye. The obverse, Abraham Lincoln's profile, etched by Victor David Brenner over a century ago, the fine details of his coat and beard worn smooth by time yet still dignified. On the reverse, the Lincoln Memorial stands tall, its colonnades softly blurred from circulation. If you flip it over, note the delicate spacing between the letters A and M in America. That spacing is a keystone in this penny's story. Because on certain 1992 pennies, due to a minting anomaly that reused a reverse die from 1993, when the reverse was redesigned with closer letter spacing, you get what coin collectors call the close AM variety, where that AM is almost touching the Suncoin identifier USA coin book. The more common version is wide AM, where a clear gap resides between the two letters, typically fetches only face value or trivial premiums unless in pristine condition. Coin identifier. The Sunday. Picture yourself as a collector examining a 1992 penny with a jeweler's loupe, hunting for that close AM, the rare breed. If you've found one, especially from the Denver Mint, 1992D, or Philadelphia, 1992P, and it's in high mint state condition, grading as MS60s or above, you could be looking at thousands of dollars. An uncirculated 1992D close AM penny might be worth $12,030 or more. USA Coin Book. Some news reports, drawing from TikTok Coin Expert Wheats to Shields, suggest that wide AM standard pennies might still fetch $1,800, while close AM pennies could be worth up to $26,000. The Sun. That news comes tinged with mythic allure. Imagine a penny in your pocket worth more than your smartphone, your rent, maybe even your next vacation. But those prices apply only to exceptionally rare, impeccably preserved close AM varieties and might reflect dramatic auction headlines. For example, in 2012 a close AM 1992 penny graded MS64 sold for over $20,000 at heritage auctions, and another in 2017 brought over $25,000. The Spruce Crafts. These extraordinary prices underscore the lottery-like upside of discovering something truly scarce. For more everyday specimens, the story is quieter but still meaningful. A typical circulated penny, a 1992 brown penny from Philadelphia in regular condition, might be worth about 5 to 10 cents, maybe 1 cent at face value. Coin value checker. But a fully read, uncirculated coin graded MS65 might run about $10. An MS67 could fetch around $26. Coin value checker. Those are modest sums, but they underscore how condition and color dramatically affect value, even absent rare varieties. Beyond the close/wide AM issue, there are numerous error varieties that numismatists seek. Double-die varieties where images on the coin appear doubled, struck through errors from grease or debris blocking the strike, off-center strikes, missing clad layer or lamination errors, die cracks, and more. Coin identifier. Baby. On marketplaces like eBay, entries fluctuate from under $5 for minor die crack errors to over $300 or even $1,000 for pronounced double die, misstruck, or rare close AM examples in high-grade eBay. A 1992P or 1992D close AM in circulated condition might sell for literally hundreds if certified and visually compelling. Again, pivot your mind to the coin's broader context. In 1992, the U.S. Mint struck 4,648,905,000 Lincoln cents at Philadelphia, and 4,448,673,300 at Denver, while proof coins numbered only about 4.18 million Wikipedia. That's over 9 billion pennies that year. Most are common and barely worth picking out of change unless they're errors or rare varieties. Rarity is relative, but in a haystack of 9 billion, even a few tens of thousands of close AM specimens become immensely valuable to collectors. Now shift your focus to the coin's physical metrics. This modern penny spans approximately 19 millimeters in diameter, with a plain edge and standard metal alignment orientation where rotate at 180 degrees and both sides should appear upright. Consancanada.com Wikipedia. Its actual weight hovers at 2.5 grams, the standard for copper-plated zinc cents. Consancanada.com Wikipedia. Composition: the zinc plated with a micro-thin copper coating, saving the mint substantial costs versus earlier solid copper cents, yet still retaining that familiar finish. As for design, and stepping way beyond the raw data, Abraham Lincoln's visage on the obverse captures a resonance deeper than mere history. Designed by Victor D. Brenner in 1909 to mark Lincoln's 100th birthday, it was the first U.S. coin to feature a real person, breaking classical tradition. Wikipedia. On the reverse of 1992 pennies, the Lincoln Memorial design, by Frank Gasparo, echoed a reverence for unity, echoing decades of imprint on generations. Though in 2010 the reverse shifted to a Union shield, the 1992 version holds the last artistic echo of the Memorial era, and the slight variation in letter spacing, close versus wide AM, inadvertently tied it to the future design, creating numismatic lore. Picture the coin's story spanning epochs, from 1909's artistic innovation to 1982's economic reform. Through 1992's design shift, to today's fascination with rare varieties. Its journey connects historical tides, design trends, metal economics, and the quirks of mint production. Finally, consider the market, where price and value dance. The melt value of a 1992 penny, its raw metal worth, is roughly 0.007 of a dollar. Specifically, estimates place it around $0.0073 or $0.0074 USA Coin Book +1. That's the floor, the base beneath all. Market value, though, is driven by collector demand, condition, rarity, and story. In narrative arc form, imagine concluding your script like this. You, the viewer, stand at the edge of your imagination, pondering the trillionth penny you've held but never truly seen. What if, mere myth or not, one of those coins, quiet, modest, was the key to a small fortune? A collector holds one like that close AM, its copper plating shimmering, the letters nearly touching, and the rarity makes it magic. That magic is market psychology, fetish for detail, love of history, and sheer serendipity. So examine your pocket change. Could that 1992 penny be worth thousands? You won't know without looking closely. That's the seduction of coins, history in your hand, and sometimes, hidden wealth waiting to whisper your name. And so the story of the 1992 penny does not end with just its weight, its composition, or even the celebrated close AM anomaly, because what makes a coin fascinating to collectors, historians, and everyday dreamers is not merely what is pressed into its surface, but what it represents in the larger arc of American life. Think for a moment about the year 1992 itself. Bill Clinton was about to take the White House. Technology was shifting from bulky home computers into the beginnings of the Internet age, and yet in the hand of every citizen rested a cent that still carried a portrait struck in 1909, still echoing in earlier America. A coin minted in 1992 is therefore not just a piece of change, but a link across eras, binding Lincoln's Civil War legacy to the 20th century and then to ours. When you look closely at the coin, the symbols start to speak. Above Lincoln's head, the motto "I in God we trust," to his left liberty, and the year 1992 just below his chin. These design elements have persisted almost unchanged for more than a century. Flip it over and you see the Lincoln Memorial, not only an architectural landmark but also a miniature shrine to the man whose profile adorns the obverse. If you look carefully enough, even a tiny seated Lincoln can be spotted inside the memorial, one of the smallest design details ever intentionally placed on U.S. currency. It is that combination of artistry, symbolism, and national memory that makes every penny an object of fascination. But then we come back to rarity, which fuels obsession. Out of nearly 9 billion cents produced that year, the vast majority are so common that even in pristine condition they fetch little. Yet, sprinkle in a few error coins, some doubled dies, a handful of off-center strikes, and of course the legendary close AM variety, and you suddenly have a landscape of possibility where an ordinary person can stumble on a hidden treasure. The 1992 D close AM, in particular, is one of those modern rarities that transforms the mundane into the miraculous. Imagine pulling such a coin from a roll of pennies you bought at a bank. Suddenly you hold something that could be worth 5 figures or more at auction. The story of such discoveries continues to inspire people to this day. Entire YouTube channels and social media accounts thrive on the possibility that someone watching might find a coin like that in their pocket change. And because collectors are willing to pay, markets respond, stories circulate, and the humble penny takes on an aura of myth. Think also about how market value itself is not static. A coin once sold for $20,000 may resurface a few years later and sell for $25,000, then $30,000, depending on the market's hunger. That means the 1992 close AM cent is not only an object of history but also an asset, something that behaves like art or fine wine in its ability to appreciate over time. A collector's coin is never truly just metal, it is reputation, rarity, desirability, and provenance. In the case of the 1992 penny, the legend grows with every article, every video, every news clip claiming that one is worth millions. And while the figure of $59 million is hyperbole compared to actual recorded sales, it highlights a psychological truth. To some, this penny is priceless, because it embodies the thrill of the hunt. Now step back and think about how people interact with coins. Children toss them into fountains for wishes. Adults drop them absent-mindedly in jars. Pennies collect in cars, couch cushions, sidewalks. A coin that might be passed over by millions of hands in total indifference could, in just the right hands, change a life. That is why coin hunting has such universal appeal. Every piece of change is a lottery ticket, but one that costs nothing extra to hold. And because the 1992 penny exists in such staggering numbers, the probability of stumbling across one is low, but never zero. The possibility fuels fascination. Collectors know that the thrill is not just in owning such a coin but in the process of searching. To find the close AM variety requires patience, good eyesight, and persistence, examining rolls and rolls of pennies, scanning for that subtle detail in letter spacing, a test of endurance and obsession. Every person who finds one becomes part of a continuing story, part treasure hunter, part historian, part storyteller. The design history too deserves more appreciation. Victor David Brenner's portrait of Lincoln is one of the most enduring in U.S. numismatics. Think about how unusual it is that the design has lasted since 1909, essentially unchanged. Other denominations have cycled through images of presidents, eagles, allegorical liberty figures, but the penny has remained true to Lincoln, perhaps because he is the most universally beloved figure in American history, or because his image simply worked so well as a symbol of perseverance and unity. The reverse design by Frank Gasparo, depicting the Lincoln Memorial, was introduced in 1959 to honor Lincoln's 150th birthday. By 1992, it had been in circulation for 33 years. And within less than 2 decades it would be retired, replaced by the Union Shield reverse in 2010. That makes the 1992 penny a snapshot of a design era nearing its close, an artifact of a chapter in American coinage history. And then there is the artistry of scale, the ability of engravers to shrink massive structures and iconic visages into tiny surfaces that still communicate meaning. The Lincoln Memorial reverse is a prime example, its columns, its stairs, its lettering, all carefully miniaturized, and in the most precise examples, the seated Lincoln statue is discernible. That is why numismatics is not just collecting coins but appreciating miniature art, and the physicality of the coin adds to the story. That 2.5 gram weight might seem trivial, But multiply it by billions and you get massive shipments of pennies, heavy bags moving from mints to banks to stores. The copper-plated zinc composition was itself a cost-saving response to economic pressures, because minting a solid copper penny had become too expensive compared to its face value. That decision reflects national debates about whether the penny itself should even exist. By 1992, arguments had already begun about eliminating the cent entirely, since it cost more to make than it was worth. Yet, because the penny carries Lincoln, because it is ingrained in American culture, it persists, though always on the edge of obsolescence. That tension, the possibility of disappearance, also makes each penny, even common ones, carry a subtle aura of nostalgia. Collectors know that if the penny is ever abolished, its legacy coins will become cultural relics in a new way. Think about the pathways of value again. A coin's melt value is less than a cent. Its face value is exactly 1 cent. Its collector value, depending on condition and rarity, ranges from almost nothing to tens of thousands. And then its mythical value, what media and sensational stories project, soars into the millions, sometimes absurdly, but always captivatingly. That layered hierarchy of value is itself fascinating, because it mirrors human psychology. We look at objects not just for what they are but for what they could be. That's why the 1992 penny still captures headlines. It's not just about money, it's about possibility, about the dream of finding fortune in the smallest and most overlooked object in our daily lives. And so, when you hold a 1992 penny, you are holding weightless history, symbolic design, economic decision, cultural tradition, and a whisper of treasure hunt all at once. Every nick on its surface is a scar of circulation, every shine of copper a reminder of a time when people used coins daily. Somewhere out there, in rolls, in jars, in drawers, lies another close AM, another doubled die, another off-center strike waiting to be discovered. And perhaps that coin will end up in an auction, a headline, or a collector's prized case. Or perhaps it will stay in circulation, passed hand to hand, an unrecognized treasure hiding in plain sight. That is the enduring spell of the 1992 penny, ordinary to billions, extraordinary to a few, and potentially life-changing to the one who looks closely enough. Then let us continue the journey of the 1992 penny, because the more one speaks of this coin, the more layers of fascination reveal themselves, like unfolding a story that never really ends. Beyond its physical presence, beyond its design and rarity, there is also the culture it has inspired, the way collectors and non-collectors alike are drawn into its orbit. Coins, after all, are tiny historical documents, tangible fragments of a nation's identity. The 1992 penny is part of that narrative, yet it also transcends its role as mere currency by entering into legend through era varieties and mythical valuations. Imagine the cultural phenomenon of coin hunting. Entire communities online form around the possibility of finding rare cents in pocket change. In forums, on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, people post their discoveries, magnified images of a letter A brushing too closely to an M, and suddenly the image is shared thousands of times. The 1992 penny becomes more than an object, it becomes content, conversation, and community. Newcomers who never thought about coins before start looking at their change more closely. Children learn from parents to check dates and details. Stories are told of individuals who found coins worth thousands in a handful of ordinary cents. Each of these tales adds fuel to the legend. The very idea that a penny could be worth the price of a car or even a house ignites the imagination. This is why even when media exaggerates the value to figures like $59 million, the audience listens, because what matters is not whether that exact number is true, but that the dream feels alive. Now let us compare the 1992 penny with other legendary coins. Consider the 1909 SVDB Lincoln cent, the very first issue of the Lincoln series, with only 484,000 minted. That coin is considered a cornerstone for collectors, fetching hundreds or thousands depending on grade. Or think of the 1943 copper penny, accidentally struck when leftover copper planchets were used in a year when most pennies were steel. Only a few dozen are known, and one sold for over $1 million. The 1955 double die cent is another classic rarity, Its doubling so bold it can be read without magnification, and examples command thousands even in circulated condition. By contrast, the 1992 close AM is a modern rarity, subtle, born of design transition rather than leftover metals or dramatic die doubling. Yet it belongs in the same breath as those legendary cents, because it demonstrates that even in a modern age of precision machinery, quirks can still escape into circulation. It shows that rarity is not confined to the past but can arise in our own lifetimes. The myth of the $59 million penny is worth exploring in its own right. Of course, number 1992 penny has ever sold for anywhere near that figure, but the persistence of the story reveals how folklore and numismatics intertwine. A number is floated, perhaps in an article exaggerating auction results, then repeated, reposted, shared across platforms, and before long it becomes part of the collective imagination. People love to believe in miracles, and the idea of a penny becoming worth tens of millions is the ultimate miracle story. It reminds us of tales of lost treasures, buried gold, or winning lottery tickets. The penny becomes a symbol of hope. And while the reality is more modest, thousands, perhaps tens of thousands at most, the legend serves a purpose. It draws attention, it sparks curiosity, and it brings new people into the hobby. Think too about the international perspective. Outside the United States, collectors around the world are fascinated by Lincoln cents. In Canada, where the penny was discontinued in 2012, enthusiasts admire American pennies as living symbols of what once circulated in their own country. In Europe and Asia, where numismatics is both a hobby and an investment, the 1992 close AM cent appears in auction catalogs alongside medieval coins and ancient silver drachmas. This humble American coin becomes a global curiosity. Its story travels across borders, because the themes of rarity, history, and hidden treasure are universal. Even those who have never visited the United States recognize Lincoln, recognize the memorial, and understand the allure of finding something rare in the ordinary. Now imagine the daily journey of a 1992 penny through time. When it was first struck, shiny and red from the mint, it may have gone directly into circulation, slipped into someone's hand at a grocery store in 1992. From there it might have been carried in a pocket, spent on candy, tossed into a change jar, handed back as bus fare, or dropped and forgotten on a sidewalk. Over decades it traveled, exchanging hands thousands of times. Its surface dulled, scratches accumulated, copper finish darkened. Perhaps it was collected into a coin roll at a bank, then broken open again. Perhaps it sat for years in a dresser drawer. This journey gives each coin a unique character. And among those countless journeys, a rare close AM cent followed the same path, unnoticed, ordinary in appearance to most, yet extraordinary to the trained eye. That duality, commonness and hidden rarity, makes the narrative irresistible. Collectors who pursue the 1992 close AM often speak of the thrill of recognition. With magnifying glass or microscope, they study the AM in America, and when they see those letters nearly touching, their heart races. It is a tiny difference, a detail of less than a millimeter, yet it transforms the coin's identity completely. In that moment, they are not just hobbyists, they are discoverers, like archaeologists brushing dust from an artifact. The coin itself has not changed, but their awareness of it has. And once discovered, it leaves the world of the mundane and enters the world of the extraordinary, where auction houses, grading services, and collectors compete for it. And yet, let us not forget the billions of ordinary 1992 pennies. These too have value, not monetary, but cultural. They are relics of daily life, reminders of a time when pennies mattered more, when they were counted out at cash registers and saved in piggy banks. Even now, though they are sometimes dismissed as nearly worthless, they endure. To some, they symbolize frugality. To others, nostalgia. To collectors, even the common examples provide context, forming the background against which the rare varieties shine all the brighter. The 1992 penny teaches us that value is layered, multifaceted, and ever-changing. It is a coin, a work of art, a piece of history, an economic artifact, a cultural symbol, a lottery ticket, and a story all at once. And like all great stories, it keeps unfolding, each retelling adding new embellishments, new exaggerations, new dreams. From one perspective, it is worth exactly 1 cent. From another, it is worth a small fortune. And from yet another, it is priceless, because it represents hope, imagination, and the thrill of discovery. And so the story goes on. Somewhere, someone at this very moment is turning a penny over in their hand, looking closely at the year, squinting at the letters, wondering if they might be holding history. Perhaps they are. Perhaps it is just an ordinary cent. Either way, they are part of the story, because they are looking, and in the act of looking, they keep the legend alive. The 1992 penny continues its journey, both as a physical object passing through hands and as a legend passing through minds. And in that sense, its value will always be immeasurable. And the story of the 1992 penny deepens even further when we step into the world of grading, auctions, and the industries that surround numismatics. Because it is not only the coin itself that determines value, it is the system of authentication, certification, and marketing that transforms a copper-plated piece of zinc into an object of desire. Imagine walking into a coin show, rows upon rows of display cases glittering with silver dollars, gold eagles, ancient Roman bronzes, and right in the middle of that spectacle, under glass and lit with precision lights, a simple 1992 penny graded and slabbed by PCGS or NGC. That plastic holder, with its label noting 1992 D close AMMS 65 red, suddenly elevates the coin. The holder guarantees authenticity, grade, and variety. It tells the buyer, this is not just a penny, this is history, verified. That little label can add hundreds or thousands of dollars to the value because it replaces doubt with certainty. Collectors, especially at the high end, will pay a premium for that peace of mind. Grading itself is a universe. Coins are judged on strike quality, luster, color, and absence of marks. For Lincoln cents, designations like red, brown, and brown matter enormously. A 1992 close AM in brown, meaning mostly toned with little original copper glow, may fetch hundreds. The same coin in red-brown, partially brilliant, might bring more. But in red, gleaming as though freshly minted, it becomes a jewel, and its value skyrockets into the thousands or tens of thousands. At the highest levels, where a coin is graded MS67 or MS68 red, the price can multiply exponentially because so few coins survive in that pristine state. Thus, the pursuit of a valuable penny is not merely about the year and variety, but about the tiny nuances of surface and shine. Auction houses like Heritage Auctions, Stack's Bowers, and Great Collections have played a pivotal role in establishing the legend of the 1992 penny. Each time one of these rare close AM examples surfaces, it makes headlines in collector circles. Catalogs describe them in poetic detail, photographs capture every glint of light, and bidding wars erupt online and in person. It is in these high-stakes rooms that prices climb, where the record sales that feed newspaper headlines occur. One collector may pay $20,000 for a coin, not only because of rarity but because of the thrill of owning something that few others possess. Provenance, meaning the history of who owned the coin before, adds another layer. A 1992 close AM once part of a famous collection may command even more simply because of its pedigree. And so the penny becomes more than a coin, it becomes a token of prestige, a chapter in a story of collecting dynasties. The coin market around the 1992 penny also extends to everyday commerce. On eBay, listings abound for 1992 cents, some genuine rarities, others misidentified, and many simply common coins priced at outrageous levels in the hope of catching a dreamer. Sellers often write dramatic descriptions. Rare close AM! Worth thousands! Sometimes they truly have the variety, but more often the spacing is wrong, the coin is damaged, or the images are unclear. Buyers scroll through hundreds of listings, searching for that one overlooked gem. This modern bazaar mirrors the physical treasure hunt of coin rolls, except now it is digital, global, instantaneous. And every once in a while, a sharp-eyed buyer spots a true rarity underpriced, snaps it up, and flips it for a fortune. That possibility keeps the online marketplace buzzing, reinforcing the idea that the 1992 penny is a lottery ticket, even in cyberspace. And then there is the cottage industry of education that surrounds this coin. YouTube channels devote entire episodes to explaining how to identify a close AM. Enthusiasts point out the distance between the A and the M, the positioning of the initials FG near the memorial, the slight shifts that distinguish 1992 from 1993. Diagrams circulate, blog posts proliferate, TikTok videos go viral. All of this content feeds the public's fascination, creating waves of new collectors. Teachers use pennies as tools to introduce children to history and economics. Families sit at kitchen tables with magnifying glasses, turning coin hunting into a shared pastime. And at the center of it all, the 1992 penny gleams as a symbol of possibility. It is important also to place this coin in the context of broader U.S. mint operations. By 1992, minting technology was highly advanced, but human oversight and die usage still allowed for anomalies. The closed AM reverse, meant for 1993, slipped into service a year early at both Philadelphia and Denver. This was not a dramatic mistake, but a subtle transition error, one that might have gone unnoticed entirely if not for the eagle eyes of collectors. That detail underscores a truth about minting: no matter how controlled the process, errors and varieties will emerge. And for collectors, those moments of imperfection are treasures. They prove that even in the modern age, uniqueness survives, and perfection is elusive. The economic story of the penny itself cannot be ignored. By 1992, the cost of producing cents was already a subject of debate. The switch to zinc cores a decade earlier saved money, but not enough to silence critics who argued that the cent was obsolete. Yet despite inflation and inefficiency, the penny persisted, largely because of tradition, inertia, and the symbolic weight of Lincoln. That paradox, that a coin barely worth its own cost to produce can nevertheless inspire multimillion-dollar industries of collecting and speculation, is one of the ironies that make the 1992 penny's story so compelling. Even outside of numismatics, the penny occupies a place in American culture. We say, "A penny for your thoughts, a penny saved is a penny earned, lucky penny." People toss them in fountains, glue them into art projects, keep them as tokens of good luck. And in that cultural field, the 1992 penny, when rare, becomes a supercharged symbol, carrying both the ordinary folklore of the penny and the extraordinary promise of wealth. So when we think about the 1992 penny today, we must see not only a date and a mint mark, not only a copper-plated zinc disc, but an entire ecosystem. Grading services, auction houses, marketplaces, content creators, educators, collectors, dreamers, all orbit around this tiny coin. It has become more than money, more than art, more than metal. It has become a story, endlessly retold, endlessly embellished, endlessly pursued, and that is why the legend grows. Every part of the industry, from the careful grader in a lab coat to the child with a jar of change, contributes to the living myth of the 1992 penny. Somewhere, another example lies undiscovered, another auction waits to set a new record, another story waits to be told. And as long as that possibility exists, the penny will never truly be just 1 cent, it will always be a doorway into history, imagination, and dreams. And as we move deeper into the saga of the 1992 penny, the scope widens to encompass not just the coin itself, or the American numismatic scene, but the parallels across the world, because the phenomenon of an ordinary coin becoming extraordinary is not unique to the United States. It is a universal thread that runs through every culture that has ever struck metal into money. In every nation, people tell stories of rare coins, of minting errors, of overlooked treasures hiding in everyday change. The 1992 penny fits neatly into this global tradition, yet also stands apart because of the immense cultural weight of Lincoln, the long-standing design, and the sheer scale of American minting. Consider, for example, Canada's famous 1955 no-shoulder fold cent, a variety where the designer's initials and details were faint, making it one of the most sought-after Canadian pennies. To Canadians, that coin is as legendary as the 1992 close AM is to Americans. In the United Kingdom, the 2009 Kew Gardens 50p coin, minted in limited numbers, commands huge premiums in collector markets, even though its face value is only 50 pence. In Australia, the $2001 coin with a mule error, struck with the wrong obverse die, became a sensation, with examples selling for thousands of dollars. These stories echo one another across continents. Ordinary coins elevated by mistakes, quirks, or low mintages, becoming treasures in the eyes of those who notice them. The psychology is the same everywhere. Coins are democratic artifacts. They pass through every hand, rich and poor alike. Unlike art or rare manuscripts locked in museums, coins are accessible. That accessibility means anyone, anywhere, might stumble upon something rare. And because of that, coins inspire a universal dream, that fortune might be found in the most ordinary object. The 1992 penny represents that dream in its American form. Its legend ties into the global pattern of stories where era coins or rare varieties transform from pocket change into priceless heirlooms. Now, when we think of the so-called $59 million penny, exaggerated as that number may be, we can place it in context with similar myths abroad. In India, for example, rumors spread of certain 1 rupee coins worth crores of rupees. In the Philippines, stories circulate of old pesos said to be worth millions. In reality, most of these stories are exaggerations or misunderstandings, but they capture the imagination of the public. The myths persist because they appeal to the same deep human desire to find hidden wealth where none was expected. That is why the story of the 1992 penny, whether told accurately or inflated into legend, continues to spread so widely. It is not just about numismatics. It is folklore, modern folklore, passed through news sites, social media, and word of mouth. It is fascinating too how the market validates these legends. Even when exaggerated prices like $59 million are not real, actual sales of thousands or tens of thousands give the myth credibility. Someone hears that a 1992 penny sold for $25,000, and suddenly the leap to 50 million feels less impossible. Media thrives on those headlines, and every article or video fuels another cycle of attention. In that sense, the penny becomes a symbol not just of hidden value, but of the way stories themselves create markets. The more people believe in the penny's value, the more demand grows, and the higher the actual prices can climb. This feedback loop between myth and market is one of the most powerful forces in collecting. In the broader economic context, the 1992 penny also reflects the strange paradox of coinage itself. Money is designed to be a neutral tool, a medium of exchange. But as soon as a coin acquires rarity, it ceases to be neutral and becomes speculative. The 1992 close AM is no longer currency, it is a commodity, an asset class, a collector's treasure. In this way, coins blur the lines between economics and culture. They remind us that value is not intrinsic to the metal or the object, but assigned by human beings. A 2.5 gram zinc disc has no real utility, yet because of design quirks and human attention, it acquires immense symbolic and financial worth. This principle extends far beyond coins, but in coins it is most tangible, because everyone has touched them. There is also the generational aspect. The collectors who prize the 1992 penny today will eventually pass their collections down. Children and grandchildren may inherit them, not just as assets but as stories. This coin was worth thousands, they will say, pointing to a small copper piece that looks no different from any other. The story itself will be as valuable as the coin, because stories are what keep traditions alive. And so the penny will move from generation to generation, carrying not only financial worth but the legacy of curiosity and imagination. Even outside of collecting, the symbolism of the penny resonates. For many, the penny is a metaphor for small beginnings, for overlooked details, for the power of persistence. To find a rare penny is to be rewarded for paying attention, for noticing what others overlook. That lesson extends beyond numismatics into life itself. The 1992 penny becomes a metaphor for hidden opportunities, for the treasures concealed in plain sight. As we draw this chapter of the story wider still, think of the countless jars of pennies sitting untouched in households across America. Each jar might contain a fortune, but only if someone looks closely. And even if not, Those jars are miniature time capsules, holding the memory of decades of change. Somewhere in those jars, in attics, basements, and closets, lies another 1992 close AM. It may be waiting for a child to discover it, for a collector to rescue it, or for an auctioneer to spotlight it. Until then, it waits, a silent participant in the unfolding story, and so the 1992 penny, in all its variations, becomes not only an object of value but also a mirror of human desire, imagination, and history. It belongs to a global chorus of rare coins, myths, and dreams, yet it carries its own distinctly American voice. It speaks of Lincoln, of the memorial, of the mint, of a nation's traditions, and of the endless human fascination with turning the ordinary into the extraordinary. And as long as coins continue to circulate, as long as people continue to hope, the legend of the 1992 penny will live on, a tiny, copper-colored beacon of possibility. And the saga of the 1992 penny unfolds even more vividly when we begin to imagine the human stories tied to it, because every great coin is not just metal and minting but also the tales of people who have found, collected, cherished, or sold them. Picture, for instance, a young collector in the mid-1990s, armed with nothing more than a magnifying glass and a shoebox of pennies pulled from circulation. Perhaps this collector had read a small note in a coin magazine about an unusual 1992 variety. Night after night, under a desk lamp, the child turns over penny after penny, eyes straining, heart racing with each close AM spotted. At first it might seem like a game, but when the day comes that they find the real variety, that penny transforms not just into money but into a story that defines their passion for collecting for the rest of their life. That is how legends are born, not only through rarity, but through the joy of discovery. Now picture another story, an older man, retired, sitting at his kitchen table. For decades he has been rolling pennies, dropping them into coffee cans, saving them without much thought. One day he reads an article online about the close AM cent, and curiosity leads him back to his cans. Hours turn into days as he searches through thousands of coins, reliving memories with each one, recalling grocery trips, bus rides, grandkids bringing him change from the store. Then, in one ordinary coin roll, he spots it, the AM so close it nearly touches. He sets it aside, uncertain at first, then sends it off to be graded. When the confirmation comes back that it is genuine, his entire perspective shifts. What was once a jar of worthless cents is now a treasure trove, not of money, but of possibility. For him, the 1992 penny becomes a symbol of patience rewarded, of curiosity paying off in unexpected ways. Collectors often talk about the emotional pull of these coins. It is not just the financial value, though that can be significant. It is the thrill, the heartbeat moment when you realize you've found something extraordinary. Some say it feels like striking gold, others compare it to winning a small lottery, but all agree that it creates a memory that lingers forever. For many, their first discovery of an rare or rare variety is what hooks them on the hobby for life. The 1992 penny, with its subtle close AM variety, is one of those perfect gateway coins because the difference is small but the reward is great. It teaches beginners the value of attention, the joy of searching, and the wonder of discovery. On the professional side of the story, auctioneers and dealers tell their own tales. Imagine the moment when a rare close AM penny arrives at an auction house, submitted by a hopeful seller. The staff photograph it with care, research its provenance, and write glowing catalog descriptions. One of the most elusive Lincoln cent varieties, the listing might say, rarely offered and highly sought after. As the auction date approaches, anticipation builds. On the day of sale, collectors across the world log in, bids flash across the screen, numbers climb higher and higher. In the room, bidders raise paddles, voices tense with competition. Finally, the hammer falls, and a once ordinary penny has sold for $20,000. For the seller, it is a windfall. For the buyer, it is the thrill of ownership. For the auctioneer, it is another chapter in the ongoing legend. Even grading companies have stories connected to this coin. Specialists at PCGS or NGC, day after day, examine thousands of coins under magnification. They see countless ordinary examples, But every once in a while, one comes across their desk that makes them pause. They check, double-check, confirm the spacing of the letters, and realize this is a close AM. For them, too, there is a quiet thrill, because they are guardians of authenticity. They know that their label, their confirmation, will make all the difference in the marketplace. They are, in a way, the referees of rarity, ensuring that the story of the 1992 penny remains grounded in truth even as myths swirl around it. And myths do swirl. Newspapers exaggerate, social media inflates, and before long, numbers like $59 million enter the public imagination. While no penny from 1992 has sold for such a staggering figure, the legend itself becomes part of the coin's value. People repeat the story, tell it to friends, share it on TikTok or YouTube. Each retelling sparks someone to look through their change, to dream that perhaps their fortune lies in a handful of pennies. In this way, the myth feeds the hobby, inspiring new collectors, new searches, new discoveries. The 1992 penny lives not only in glass cases and auction catalogs but also in the hearts and minds of millions who may never own one but who feel the excitement of the hunt. What makes these human stories so powerful is that they tie into something larger than coins. They tie into the universal human search for meaning in the small, the overlooked, the ordinary. The penny is the lowest denomination, often dismissed, sometimes left on sidewalks or thrown away. Yet here is proof that even the smallest, humblest thing can carry extraordinary worth. That lesson resonates far beyond numismatics. It becomes a parable of life itself, that greatness can hide in the overlooked, that fortune can arise from patience, that stories can transform the smallest objects into treasures. And so, in homes, in shops, in shows, in auctions, in jars and drawers and pockets, the 1992 penny continues its quiet journey. Each person who touches one adds to its story. Each collector who searches for one participates in its legend. Each child who learns to look closely at coins inherits a tradition that stretches back centuries. And somewhere, perhaps in your own change, perhaps in a forgotten coin roll at the back of a drawer, another close AM waits to be found, waiting to turn an ordinary moment into a memory, an ordinary coin into a treasure, an ordinary story into part of a legend. Museums, historians, and educators have always known the power that coins hold in telling human stories, and the 1992 penny is no exception. To most people it may seem like just another cent, yet when placed in a display case under soft lights, accompanied by historical context, the coin becomes a portal into broader narratives of American history, economics, and identity. A visitor at a coin exhibit might glance at a 1992 penny mounted behind glass and wonder why such a humble, everyday object deserves such attention. Then they learn about the subtle close AM variety, the rarity, the collector demand, and suddenly the penny becomes alive with meaning. For educators, this transformation is a teaching tool. It demonstrates that history is not always found in grand monuments or famous paintings, but also in the smallest objects that pass silently through millions of hands. Consider how a history teacher might use the 1992 penny in a classroom. The lesson might begin with students examining a handful of ordinary coins. At first, they notice only the obvious: the image of Lincoln, the date, the inscriptions. But when the teacher explains the difference between wide AM and close AM, and shows students how to look closely, the classroom atmosphere changes. Now every student leans in, searching, scrutinizing. Suddenly, the penny is not just money but a mystery, a puzzle to be solved. The teacher then links the discovery to broader themes: how attention to detail can reveal hidden truths, how history often hides in plain sight, how small differences can have big consequences. In this way, the penny becomes more than numismatics. It becomes a metaphor for learning itself. Museums often highlight similar stories. At numismatic exhibitions, a small coin can be placed alongside large historical artifacts, documents, tools, portraits. The penny becomes part of a larger story of Abraham Lincoln, of American democracy, of economic history. Imagine a museum case featuring the evolution of the Lincoln cent from 1909 to the present, with the 1992 penny standing out as a rare variation. Visitors walk away not only fascinated by the era but also with a deeper appreciation of how coins track the passage of time, reflecting cultural values, political shifts, and artistic design. A child who sees that exhibit might be inspired to start collecting, while an adult might be reminded of the power of everyday objects to carry history forward. Historians view coins as primary sources, artifacts of the past that carry immense documentary value. The 1992 penny tells us not only about its own rarity, but also about the economic context of the early 1990s. At that time, inflation debates swirled, and there were even discussions about the cost-effectiveness of producing pennies. The mint itself faced questions about efficiency, accuracy, and the future of small-denomination coins. By examining a coin like the 1992 close AM, historians connect it to broader themes of government policy, economic decision-making, and cultural attachment to tradition. Even the fact that the penny persisted despite rising costs reflects something about American identity: a reluctance to abandon the familiar, a respect for continuity, a reverence for symbols tied to Lincoln and national history. Educators in economics also use coins to demonstrate lessons about value. They might ask students, how can a 1992 penny be worth 1 cent to some people and $20,000 to others? This sparks discussions about supply and demand, about scarcity, about perceived value. Students learn that value is not fixed but constructed, that markets operate not only on utility but on desire, rarity, and narrative. The penny thus becomes a perfect case study in behavioral economics, showing how stories and perceptions influence price just as much as material reality. The supposed $59 million myth, even if inaccurate, can itself be a teaching moment, a lesson in how misinformation spreads, how hype influences markets, and how critical thinking is essential in evaluating claims. Museums and historical societies also preserve the physical coins themselves, ensuring that future generations can see them firsthand. Without such preservation, many rare varieties would be lost to circulation, melted down, or forgotten. By curating these coins, institutions ensure that the legend of the 1992 penny is not just a fleeting trend but a lasting part of cultural memory. Visitors decades from now will still be able to stand in front of a display case and marvel at the strange fact that one tiny spacing between two letters could transform a coin's destiny. The artistry of the design also plays a role in education. Designers at the U.S. Mint work with immense precision, creating dies that must strike millions of coins with accuracy. The 1992 close AM variety demonstrates how even small deviations can create rarity. Art instructors sometimes use coins to show how design functions at micro scale, how engravers capture portraits and architecture in spaces smaller than a thumbnail. The penny becomes a study in miniaturization, in the discipline of precision art. Lincoln's portrait itself, enduring since 1909, offers lessons in the power of imagery, how a face on a coin can embody ideals of freedom, leadership, and national identity. At the same time, coins like the 1992 penny help museums and educators remind the public that history is not abstract, it is tactile. You can hold it in your hand, feel its weight, see its details. Unlike distant historical figures or abstract economic theories, coins are immediate. They bring history down to earth, into the palm of your hand. That tangibility makes them especially powerful teaching tools, because they bridge the gap between past and present in a way few other objects can. Thus, the 1992 penny exists not only as a collectible and a commodity but also as a cultural artifact, a teaching device, a miniature piece of history that carries within it lessons about design, economics, identity, and attention to detail. Its story does not belong only to collectors but to everyone who wishes to learn from the past, to marvel at the ordinary, and to discover the extraordinary hidden within the everyday. The rise of the Internet and social media has taken the legend of the 1992 penny to a whole new dimension, transforming what was once an obscure detail known only to dedicated numismatists into a viral phenomenon that circulates on YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, and countless forums. Before the Internet, only coin magazines, collector conventions, or specialized auction catalogs carried stories about rare varieties like the close AM penny. Today, a single video claiming a penny could be worth $59 million can rack up millions of views overnight, sparking curiosity from people who had never thought twice about the coins in their pockets. This explosion of information, sometimes accurate, sometimes exaggerated, has placed the 1992 penny firmly in the spotlight of pop culture. Think of the countless YouTube creators who make videos on rare coins. A video might begin with dramatic music, a close-up shot of a penny under magnification, and the voice of the narrator announcing, "This ordinary-looking 1992 penny could make you a millionaire." Even if the details are simplified or exaggerated, the video captures attention, inspires excitement, and prompts viewers to dig through their change jars. In this way, the legend spreads far beyond the traditional world of coin collectors. Suddenly, teenagers, retirees, and everyday people are joining the hunt, driven by the dream of finding treasure in spare change. TikTok has amplified the phenomenon even further. Short, snappy clips of people comparing wide AM and closed AM pennies with quick zoom-ins and bold text overlays circulate widely. Some videos receive millions of likes, with comments full of people saying they're going to check their change immediately. Hashtags like #RareCoin, #PennyHunt, and #1992 trend repeatedly, blending numismatics with the entertainment-driven pace of the internet. For a younger generation, coins become not just history lessons but viral challenges, a kind of treasure hunt that anyone can participate in. The viral potential of the 1992 penny lies in the contrast between its humble appearance and its rumored astronomical value. A coin worth 1 cent suddenly being hyped as worth millions plays perfectly into the internet's appetite for shocking contrasts and rags to riches stories. Even though actual auction results rarely approach the wild claims, the idea itself becomes a kind of folklore. People repeat it in conversations, share it on social media, and pass it along like a modern fairy tale. The myth takes on a life of its own, and the 1992 penny becomes less a piece of currency and more a cultural meme, a symbol of hidden wealth hiding in plain sight. News outlets, too, have picked up on the craze. Stories appear with headlines like, "Check your change, this 1992 penny could be worth thousands," or, "1 cent that could make you rich." These articles often draw huge traffic because they promise the possibility of a life-changing discovery with minimal effort. Even if the reader never finds such a penny, the story lodges itself in memory, ensuring that every 1992 cent they encounter afterward carries a twinge of curiosity and hope. The internet age has also democratized knowledge about coin collecting. In the past, identifying a rare variety required specialized knowledge and access to scarce reference books. Now, with a quick Google search or a YouTube tutorial, anyone can learn how to spot the difference between wide AM and close AM. Forums and Facebook groups allow beginners to upload photos, ask questions, and receive guidance from seasoned collectors. This community aspect has turned the search for the 1992 penny into a shared adventure. People post pictures of coins they've found, others comment with encouragement or corrections, and together they build a collective culture of treasure hunting. However, this internet-fueled fame also has a double edge. Exaggerated claims, like the idea of a penny being worth $59 million, can create unrealistic expectations. Some people become convinced they have a fortune in their hands when in reality their coin may be worth only a modest premium. Dealers often receive floods of emails from hopeful finders, only to deliver the disappointing news that the coin is not the rare variety. Yet even these misunderstandings serve a purpose. They keep the story alive, keep people engaged, and keep the culture of coins searching vibrant. Pop culture references have also begun to emerge. TV shows, blogs, and podcasts occasionally mention the rare penny phenomenon, using it as a metaphor for hidden value or unexpected fortune. For instance, a character in a show might find a penny and joke that it could be worth millions, a wink to viewers familiar with the viral internet stories. In this way, the 1992 penny crosses over from the niche world of numismatics into the broader cultural imagination, where it symbolizes the dream of finding treasure in the mundane. What makes the penny's internet fame particularly fascinating is that it blends fact, fiction, and folklore. The factual element is the genuine rarity of the closed AM variety. The fiction comes from inflated valuations and viral exaggerations. The folklore emerges from the way people share and reshape the story, passing it along not for accuracy but for inspiration and entertainment. This blend is exactly what drives cultural phenomena in the digital age, where truth and myth interweave into something larger than both. The coin's presence online also ensures its longevity as a cultural icon. Long after other viral trends fade, the legend of the valuable penny will resurface because it ties into a universal human desire, the hope that something ordinary might secretly be extraordinary. As long as people continue to use pennies, as long as coins continue to circulate, there will always be the possibility of discovery. The internet simply magnifies that possibility, broadcasting it to millions and making the humble 1992 penny into one of the most famous coins of the modern era. Stories of actual finds and real-life auction results are the fuel that keeps the legend of the 1992 penny alive and burning brightly in the public imagination. It is one thing to hear that a coin could theoretically be valuable. It is quite another to see proof that someone actually turned a common-looking cent into a five-figure payday. Every time a 1992 close AM penny appears at auction, collectors and casual observers alike tune in, eager to see the hammer price, eager to confirm that the stories are not just fantasy but grounded in reality. These real-life sales act like sparks that reignite interest, sending waves of new people to check their change jars and wallets in hopes of stumbling across treasure. Auction houses play a major role in shaping the narrative. When a prestigious house like Heritage Auctions or Stack's Bowers offers a 1992 close AM penny, the catalog description often includes details about its rarity, population reports from grading companies like PCGS and NGC, and estimates of potential hammer prices. These listings circulate online, sometimes even picked up by mainstream media, creating ripples of excitement that spread far beyond the coin collecting world. A single sale, whether it fetches $5,000, $10,000, or more, becomes a headline. Penny sells for thousands at auction. That headline, in turn, sparks another wave of viral articles and videos. Individual success stories amplify the hype even further. Consider the person who finds a 1992 penny in their coin roll hunt, sends it off to be graded, and learns it is indeed the elusive close AM. The thrill of discovery, the validation of expertise, and the financial windfall all combine into a story that resonates. These stories circulate online, shared on forums, in YouTube interviews, or even local news segments. They often follow a familiar arc. An ordinary person discovers something extraordinary, proving that the dream of hidden fortune in pocket change is real. These narratives stick in the public mind because they tap into a universal hope that life can surprise us with unexpected treasures. The presence of grading companies adds another layer of credibility. Professional Coin Grading Service, PCGS, and Numismatic Guarantee Company, NGC, certify coins, providing objective assessments of authenticity and condition. When a 1992 close AM penny appears in a holder with a label reading MS65 Red Close AM, it instantly becomes more than just a rumor. It becomes a tangible, certified rarity backed by authority. Auction listings with these slabs often display detailed photos, magnifying the space between the A and the M, leaving no doubt that the variety is real. These slabs then circulate in images online, shared on Facebook groups and YouTube videos, further solidifying the legend in the collective imagination. Market demand is a fascinating element to observe. Each time a big sale happens, more collectors enter the market, driving demand higher. But supply remains fixed, since only a limited number of these varieties exist. That imbalance between supply and demand drives prices up, at least temporarily, and encourages even more people to hunt. It becomes a feedback loop. Higher prices attract more attention attracts more hunters increase demand, and the cycle continues. The rare penny thus becomes a living example of economic principles playing out in real time, all under the spotlight of social media amplification. The idea of astronomical values, claims of $59 million or other such enormous sums, also persists because of how these success stories spread. Even if the actual sales are far lower, the hype inflates the public's imagination. Someone hears of a penny selling for thousands, exaggerates the figure, and before long the number has ballooned into mythic territory. While number 1992 penny has sold for anything remotely near tens of millions, the very possibility fuels daydreams. People are less interested in the precise truth than in the emotional spark the story provides, the feeling that a miracle could happen to them. Media coverage contributes by blending fact with flourish. When local news runs a segment about a coin worth thousands, the story often emphasizes the "anyone could find this" angle, which makes it feel accessible and urgent. Viewers finish the story thinking, if it happened to that person, it could happen to me. This democratization of possibility is part of why the 1992 penny resonates so strongly in the public consciousness. It is not locked away in museums or held only by elites. It could be sitting in your change right now, waiting to be discovered. Social proof also plays a huge role. On forums, collectors post images of their finds, receipts from grading companies, or screenshots of auction results. Each post acts as evidence that the coin is real, that the market is active, that the story is not a hoax. This community-generated proof reinforces the cycle of belief and action. For newcomers, these posts offer reassurance. Others are finding them, others are selling them, therefore it is possible. The dream remains alive, supported not just by institutions but by everyday participants sharing their journeys. The most interesting aspect, however, is how the 1992 penny blends economics, psychology, and storytelling into one phenomenon. Economically, it is a scarce variety commanding high prices. Psychologically, it appeals to human desires for treasure, surprise, and transformation. Narratively, it embodies the archetype of the humble object with hidden power, like a fairy tale trinket or a lottery ticket. When all three elements combine, the penny transcends its material form and becomes cultural currency as much as financial currency. It lives not only in wallets or coin albums but in stories, memes, and dreams. And so, each time an auction closes with another record price, each time a YouTube creator uploads another video, each time a social media post goes viral, the 1992 penny is reborn for a new audience. It is a coin that continually renews itself through stories, discoveries, and dreams, proving that even the smallest objects can command the largest attention when they carry the promise of rarity, history, and unexpected fortune. Human fascination with treasure hunts, hidden value, and the idea that ordinary objects may conceal extraordinary worth is as old as civilization itself, and the 1992 penny perfectly embodies that timeless psychological pull. Since ancient times, people have told stories of hidden gold, lost cities, and magical artifacts lying in wait for those who notice what others overlook. These tales endure not because everyone expects to become rich, but because they satisfy something deeper in the human spirit, the longing for wonder, discovery, and transformation. When people hear that a common penny could secretly be worth thousands, or even millions in exaggerated accounts, it resonates with the archetype of hidden treasure, of the miraculous fortune concealed in plain sight. This desire is linked to hope. In everyday life, routines often feel predictable, even monotonous. The thought that a tiny copper coin rattling at the bottom of a change jar could suddenly change everything provides a burst of possibility. It whispers that life is not entirely mapped out, that surprises still exist, that chance can intervene in beautiful and unexpected ways. For some, the search for the 1992 penny is not just about money but about hope itself. The hope that ordinary days still carry the potential for extraordinary moments. It also ties into curiosity and attention to detail. To distinguish a 1992 close AM penny from the ordinary wide AM, one must look closely, carefully, and patiently. This practice rewards not only luck but skill, training the eye to notice small differences others overlook. Psychologically, this is deeply satisfying. Humans love solving puzzles, cracking codes, and uncovering secrets. Each time someone spots the subtle closeness of the A and the M, they feel a sense of mastery, as though they have unlocked a hidden language. That sensation is addictive, drawing people deeper into the hobby, turning casual searchers into passionate collectors. Another powerful element is community. Treasure hunts are rarely solitary in the modern world. Forums, YouTube channels, TikTok videos, and Facebook groups turn the search into a collective adventure. People share photos, stories, triumphs, and disappointments. Every discovery becomes a communal celebration. Every near miss sparks encouragement and advice. The psychology of belonging enhances the thrill of the hunt. The 1992 penny is not just a personal quest but a shared journey, binding strangers together through a common dream. On a deeper level, the fascination also reflects humanity's relationship with value itself. Money is supposed to be fixed. 1 cent is 1 cent. Yet the 1992 penny challenges this assumption, proving that value is not absolute but constructed, influenced by rarity, history, demand, and perception. This realization is both unsettling and exhilarating. If something as ordinary as a penny can be worth thousands, then perhaps other overlooked aspects of life also carry hidden potential. The coin becomes a metaphor, reminding people that the extraordinary often hides within the ordinary, waiting for the right eyes to see it. The mythic exaggerations, claims of $59 million or more, while not accurate, serve an important psychological role. They push the dream into the realm of legend, giving the story an almost magical aura. Humans are drawn to extremes, to the grand and the impossible. Even when people know such figures are unrealistic, the sheer audacity of the number keeps the imagination alive. It is less about literal truth than about symbolic power. The penny becomes not just currency, not just collectible, but modern folklore, a small, tangible object carrying a story as rich as any fairy tale. In the end, the enduring power of the 1992 penny lies not only in its market value but in what it represents. It is proof that tiny details matter, that history is alive in the smallest artifacts, that value is both material and symbolic, and that wonder can hide in the most ordinary places. It reminds us to look closer, to stay curious, to remain open to possibility. Whether one ever finds such a coin or not, the search itself becomes valuable. The act of hunting sharpens perception, builds community, fuels imagination, and nurtures hope, and so the story of the 1992 penny continues, carried forward by collectors, educators, storytellers, and dreamers. It may live in auction catalogs, in YouTube videos, in viral TikTok clips, or in quiet moments when someone flips over a coin and peers at the tiny space between the A and the M. Each generation will rediscover it anew, because the desire it speaks to is eternal. The penny's worth is not just in dollars but in dreams, not just in rarity but in resonance, not just in copper but in culture. For as long as humans seek meaning in the ordinary, the legend of the 1992 penny will endure, shining brightly as one of the greatest modern coin stories. A tale of how 1 small cent captured the imagination of millions and proved that even the smallest things can carry the biggest stories.